Leanne, would you like to say, describe what happened that night, where you were going, what you saw, what?
Yeah, I was with a student officer that day. I was in his duty phase. We were on our way back to the police station when I saw a group of people. They were all stood in the middle of the road on Shambush Street at Town End in Barnsley. We pulled over to see what was happening, and I could see a chap who I know quite well from when I used to work in the neighbourhoods. He was laid in the middle of the road, unconscious. His face was covered in blood. There were people around him trying to help him. So I've parked the car up, got out, gone over to try and help him, realised who it was, and as he started coming around, he started becoming really aggressive, shouting, swearing. So I've asked him to calm down, introduced myself, told him who I am, tried to make him aware that obviously he does know me. And to be fair, in the past we've always got on quite well, even though he is quite anti-police. Because when I used to work in the neighbourhoods, myself and one of the PCSOs used to do quite a lot of work with him to help him out with his day-to-day life, because he does struggle quite a bit. He was still being aggressive, shouting, swearing. I kept asking him to stop. There was a male from the KFC that came along with some paper, like the blue towels, to try and help with the bleeding to his face. And the guy who's on the floor started becoming racially abusive towards him. So I shouted at him and said, "We're not having that. You stop it right now. I know you're hurt, but he doesn't want it. He's just trying to help you." And he carried on, and then he began spitting blood at me. So I shouted at him again, "You can stop spitting blood at me." And he carried on shouting racial abuse towards people who were standing by on the roadside as well. So I didn't really have any option, because so many people were stood around us. It was being quite abusive. I could see people getting offended. So I thought that the best way to get him medical attention and to get him away from the situation was to arrest him. At which point he began spitting more at me with blood. I kept telling him to stop. We had to get a van to come down. It was the first time as well that I've actually had to use a spit hood, because I don't particularly like them. But because there was so much blood in his mouth when he was spitting at me, I was quite conscious, obviously, that he could have any kind of infections or diseases, especially because he is a drug user as well. Obviously, there's a much higher chance of that. He was then taken up to the police station, continued spitting, being abusive. I booked him into custody and didn't really have much more dealings with him that day. I wasn't overly offended by what he did. I hate spitting anyway, especially when there's blood, because of the risk of infections and the repercussions that it can have on myself and my family. And I don't think that they always understand that. So I thought, well, if I go through Remedi, even though I'm not particularly offended and I do see it as part of my job, then hopefully he can understand moving forward what the ramifications of his actions could be. So I thought then hopefully it might try and help any future offending, might help with any kind of rehabilitation that he was in. So I thought if I engage in it, it's a continuation of the original incident that I dealt with, and basically just seeing it through to the end. Because more often than not, we do deal with things there and then at the scene and don't see what happens afterwards. And it is kind of nice to know how things end up and what the offenders end up doing, whether or not they continue to reoffend or if they do get help and can function in society. Because we agreed on indirect contact, obviously the best way to do that is a letter, and it made me actually sit down and think of the implications that could have been caused, whereas more often than not, within my role as a police officer, you deal with it, you don't always particularly think about it, you just deal with it, you move on. To sit back and actually think about it and to put my point across to the offender and how it could have had that impact, it felt quite good to get it down so that they were aware of what could have happened, rather than just thinking, well, it's just a bit of spit, or it's happened, it's done with. The knock-on effect that it could have had on not just myself, and the fact that I wouldn't have been able to do a frontline role if I did end up contracting some kind of infection from it, but also like with my family. and the impact that it could have had with my contact with them and my day-to-day life. So putting all that down on paper and actually saying to someone, this is what could have happened, felt quite good. I felt quite glad that he has actually taken the time to read it. It does seem that he's taken it on board, what I've said. He's thought about it from his own point of view of how he would have felt if he'd have been in my situation and tried to empathise with me. It shows that he has come a long way from what he used to be like. So to me, it shows that there is progress with him. He's told me that he's now clean. He's told me he's getting help. He's thought about not just the repercussions on me, but the lad from KFC that was there, and the fact that he's ashamed of what he said, and obviously the impact that it could have had on my family as well. It does actually show, because he's used some of the phrases that I've used and like emulated it back, that he has taken the time to actually read it. It's not just, oh, I'll go along with it because it's part of my rehabilitation. He actually has put some time and thought into that. So it's good to see that it has had some kind of impact.
Dear Leanne, thank you so much for the letter that you sent me. Thank you for trying your best to help me on the day in question. You have known me for years. I don't always really like police, but you are the only copper in Barnsley that I do like, so I feel especially bad for my actions. You have always talked to me fair and went out of your way to help me, so my behaviour towards you was so unfair. I'm ashamed of my treatment towards the lad from the KFC, and I've written to him separately to apologise for my actions. He was only there to help me, and I was abusive for no reason. So, you've done the right thing by arresting me. I can't believe I was repeatedly spitting at you. It's the kind of thing I would have done to other coppers, but I can't believe I have done it to you, as you don't deserve it at all. The fact that my spit was full of blood must have made it worse for you, and the fact that you understand the potential repercussions of this must have been especially traumatic. I feel so bad that you had to wear a spit hood. It makes me feel so guilty, as no human being should have to go through this. I feel terrible that my actions could have changed the way that you interact with your family. You do a great job helping keep people safe, and you deserve to be healthy and happy outside of your work. I'm sorry that you could have had to stay off work, something that you clearly enjoy and means a lot to you. The idea of your family becoming ill because of me fills me with shame, and I am glad that they have not been affected by this. People should think about how their actions impact on the police and other human beings. Thanks again for writing to me. I hope that this letter can help me change for the better. I am 7 months clean and sober and doing well, and will always remember you for being nice to me and helping me when I was back in Barnsley. Please keep being a good person and helping people like me. Yours sincerely, James.
So Leanne, what would you say to other professionals like you who are thinking about RJ?
I would say seriously consider it. Yeah, a lot of professionals think, well, it's my job. I don't really feel like I need to do it to get anything out of it. But if you're anything like me, I like to see it through. I like to see the end result and get to find out. So not only did you get to find out how that person is further down the line, whether or not there's been any kind of impact, almost like seeing, it's like thread to needle, seeing the job from the start to the finish. You get something out of it because hopefully it might help with any reoffending. So you might have had a bigger impact than it would be, say, I'd have just locked him up, he'd have gone to prison, come back out and carried on with his reoffending pattern like he has done for many years. He hasn't reoffended so far. He is clean, he is trying, so it just shows that it has had an impact and it is working. So it is definitely something to consider doing.